creating cultural awareness and understanding. This is Culture Clique. Culture Clique is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University.
Today on Culture Clique, we talk to comedian Ryan Niemiller. Ryan placed third on season 14 of America's Got Talent and claims himself as the Triple Threat of Comedy. We get to see an insight into how AGT changed his life, what kind of comedy Ryan does, and what he has been up to during the pandemic. This is KJ with Ryan Niemiller on Culture Clique. So I'm here with Ryan Niemiller. He just finished performing here at Crisco After Dark. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. This was a lot of fun. I was, you never know what to expect with these kind of like late night college. I've done colleges where, back in the before times, before the pandemic, they're packed. There's 1,000 students there. Everyone's rocking. And sometimes they just forgot to advertise it. And there's 6 people who stumbled in. So you never really know exactly what it's going to be. But this was a lot of fun. Everyone was really supportive and receptive. And they're a little spread out, which makes the energy weird. But it's fun. It's a fun challenge. So I had a really good time.
Yeah, and it was really great. I had a lot of fun. What if people don't know, you were on AGT season 14, probably one of the greatest seasons that we've had lately. Obviously, you sadly didn't win, but I mean, third place, you still did amazing.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, my bronze medal. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'd finally gotten through all the therapy, finally figured it out. Now that show has 100% changed my life, and it is interesting because like third place is amazing. I mentioned this during the performance tonight, but they told us like during my season there was about 70,000 acts that tried to get on. So like, how could you be upset with getting third out of 70,000? Like it's life changing. Like I wouldn't be here talking to you if that show didn't have me and the run didn't go as well. So that show is life changing, and I'm hooked on the show too now. I didn't watch it a ton beforehand. I've had some friends that were on it, so I would watch their stuff, but I never really kind of watched the seasons, and that they got me hooked just from being on there.
Yeah, my mom and I always watch the show. It was probably like the funnest stuff that we've ever watched. Like all the acts have always been amazing throughout the years. Even the ones that aren't good are still hilarious just because of how weird some of the stuff that they do. So what kind of, or I guess first off I should ask, how did you get into comedy?
I was not good at anything else like that. I mean, if you kind of want the truth, so the kind of long story short version, because there's a lot more to it than this. So having the disability that I do, I learned really early when I was a kid. Like I never got bullied, which is like, that surprises a lot of people. Well, it's because I figured out how to make the jokes first. And I was so much better at them than anyone else that everyone was like, oh, this guy's cool. We like him. He makes me laugh. And it sort of planted the seed early on that like, if you can get people to laugh, this is going to sound way more sinister than I intended, but if you get people to laugh, they'll do what you want, So like I would, like one of my roles in high school, for instance, there would be like, we'd be in algebra class and my classmates would be like, okay, Ryan, you need to make the teacher laugh so much that we just don't do algebra today. And I took that as a challenge. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do so. I was always respectful. I never was like, interrupting, but I was like, I'm going to try to be funny enough where he just goes, screw it. All right, we're not learning today. Just let's have a day off. Then when I got to college, I sort of floundered around a bit, figuring out what I wanted to do. And eventually I got drawn to theater. So I have my degree is in theater from Winona State. I have an acting degree. And I love stage theater to this day. It's a passion of mine. But the reason I kind of pulled away from it is I wanted to tell my own story. I was tired of telling Shakespeare's story. People have told Shakespeare's story. I wanted to tell Ryan Niemiller's story. And stand-up was something I always loved and was interested in. It kind of just transitioned that way. And then, about 13 years later, I became an overnight sensation. So it worked out, I think.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. I'm content. You're content. Okay. So the funniest thing was when I heard you were coming here, I'm like, okay, I knew of you. I remember you vividly from AGT. But I'm like, okay, what's he been doing now? And I searched your name up, and it popped up on your website, and all I read is Cripple Threat of Comedy. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the greatest tagline ever. Your logo is like the Jurassic Park thing, but with your arm, and it is amazing. I love it. So your kind of comedy style is talking all about you.
Yes, so I always felt it was a little short-sighted. Like, people want to be like, "Oh, there's someone with a disability," that's fine, but like, it's important to me to talk about it, because especially like as I was doing my run on America's Got Talent, the amount of people, these numbers might be a little outdated, but this was as of like 5-6 years ago, something around like 1 in 4 people in the United States has a disability, and in entertainment, there was only about 2 to 3% of individuals that they might not even actually have a disability, even depicted as having a disability. So, I made the comments on AGT. When I was growing up, there was no one who looked like me on television. I didn't have any kind of role model, and then eventually it just became to the point where it's like, well, all right, well, if no one else will do it, I'll do it, I guess. And just the amount of feedback I got, there were some people that aren't going to like it, and that's fine, but the amount of feedback I've gotten from either people with disabilities or parents of children with disabilities that is like, hey, I'm glad one of us got on television and actually got put in a positive light. It wasn't like a, oh, because that's also what happens to people with disabilities a lot. It becomes like you have to be this inspiration, or it's a sad story. And people, like, if anytime anyone tries to feel sorry for me, I'm like, don't. My life's awesome. I'm on television. I have the coolest job in the world. Like, my life's cool. Like, I'm not... Why would you feel bad for me? Like, my life's amazing. And that's kind of the message I try to get out there by not ignoring the fact that I have a disability. Like, it's a part of me. I can't turn it off. It doesn't go away. So I like to keep it very personal and observational to my life.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'd say it's just about you. So a lot of comedians just make jokes about themselves and their lives. So, I mean, it fits right in with a lot of what people are doing nowadays.
Yeah, I don't think it's much different at all. It's just that my life just happens to have a different thing than a lot of other comics do, But it's still, at the end of the day, just talking about me. Talking about what happened to me when I went here, or when I did, when I was at Taco Bell, this happened here, and, when I'm dealing with my girlfriend, this is the thing that she did. Like, I have those same problems too. I just happen to come from the perspective of an individual with a limb difference.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about you being on AGT. What was that experience like? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've thought about auditioning in the past. Definitely not gonna do that now. But I've thought about it. So what's it like?
It's a surreal experience. If there's been any... there's been a few things I've been able to kind of glean off the pandemic, but one of the biggest positives was like just even having a second to kind of sit back and understand the magnitude of what happened. Mm-hmm. Because for me, it was life-changing. I had been doing comedy for 12, 13 years before I got on the show. I tried to get on AGT for 5 years. Like, I was actively trying to get on there, and just like, I was getting a little closer before they finally, gave me the shot to audition in front of the judges. And I was like, okay, now I'm ready. I'm going to knock it out of the park. But it's such a, it's hard to explain, because for me, when I'm performing, that's sort of my safe place. Mm-hmm. That's where I feel like most confident. So like, people think I'm just trying to sound like a really cool guy, or like nothing gets me. But like, when I was actually doing the performances and I was on television, it was easy.
Yeah.
And maybe easy is not quite the right word, but it was natural. I was comfortable. Because I had confidence. I knew my jokes were going to work. I knew I belonged there. It was more like the second I would get off stage, it'd be like, oh my God, what just happened? Oh no. And just that show, it changes your life quickly.
Yeah.
Because even when my first audition aired, I wish I would have got a video of it. I was over at my sister's house and we all watched it together. And the second my segment ended, my social media, just all these messages just coming in, bloop, 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 bloop. It was just constant for hours, just coming through. And like, that was kind of the moment that I kind of went, oh, this is something. This is gonna happen. This is big. And so that was actually the harder part to kind of cope with, for lack of a better phrase, to kind of like navigate that. It's like, now, for the first time in my career, people knew who I was and they cared, so I had to like figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to handle becoming like a media sensation overnight.
Yeah. And it's hard to explain too. Like even if you did audition, like I can only tell you so much because like you don't know until you know. It's not an exact perfect analogy, so I don't want anyone to get mad at me. But from what like I think it's kind of similar to what people say when they are having like their first child. Everyone gives them advice and tells them this is what it's going to be like. When we had our kid, this happened, this happened, this happened, and that's all great. But you don't know until you have the kid, and that's kind of how AGT felt for me. I had friends that had done really well on that show before. And they were telling me, okay, this is what's going to happen, and then you're going to experience this. And they weren't wrong, but you don't know how you're going to react to it until you're in it.
Yeah, and every season is different. I mean, they had certain competitors that they had to worry about on their seasons, like other comedians, if they were comedians. It all just depends on who auditioned and who got in that season.
Yeah, it's and you don't know, and you can't factor in, like, what everyone else does, that's on them. You know, you can't worry about anyone else's stuff. You can just do the best you can and hope America liked it.
Yeah. So, how has COVID-19 affected, like, your bookings and your gigs currently? I mean, you talked about it in your show, but just if people weren't here.
Yes. It has been... I always want to put the disclaimer when I talk about this because the pandemic is serious.
Yes.
People have lost their life. Like, there's tons of people that have had it worse than me, so I don't want anyone to think I'm tone deaf to that. But just speaking from someone who is in the business I'm in, it's been rough. Especially, you know, for me, it kind of... I'm still doing okay because I can do enough of these shows. I've done a lot of Zoom comedy. I'm keeping the lights on. Like, things are okay. But, you know, I worked 13 years to get anyone to notice me. I finally had this big break. I got about 6 months of being able to be on the road and really, like, go across the... And then everything shut down.
Yeah.
So it almost felt like, for me personally, career-wise, it was just a bit of a tease. I got, like, a little bit of taste of, like, oh, this is what your life can be, and then the world shut down. And entertainment in general just was hit really hard. And it's not just comedians, you know, it's, you know, live music and magicians and dance troupes and everything else. Sports and, you know, everything is kind of... So it's starting to pick up a little bit now. Luckily, vaccines are getting out there. I get my second shot here in a week, so I'm very excited about that. The lights just went out in here because it's motion-censored lights. That's... Let me stand up and fix that. It happened earlier, too, and I was just sitting in here, and I was like, well, I guess I'm fired. They decided the show's not happening.
That's funny.
But luckily, things are starting to pick up a little bit, and the shows are different, and I want to say I support the safety precautions. Like, I'm a big proponent of that. But just in kind of a black and white description... Shows where people are separated and wearing masks are weird still. It's different because, like, that's not how my career was built. It wasn't, you know, it's just something you adjust to, and it's the price of, if you want shows to happen, this is what we got to do. And you deal with it, and I support that. But it does take some adjusting. Like, even this is a big room.
Yeah.
And there was a good turnout. There was, you know, 100 people probably, give or take. It was in that ballpark.
About, yeah.
And everyone is spread out. Like, basically everyone has these, like, their own... It's a room that can hold 500, I think they told me, under normal circumstances. And when you get 100 people in 500 seat room, like... It's a difference. It feels desolate. It feels very strange. And you can kind of tell even, like, at the beginning of my set, there's, like, this feeling out process of, like... Okay, how do I win this whole crowd over when it's such like everyone's separate pockets? And so it's just been a new challenge to figure out that. And hopefully, you know, we're starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel. We're not quite there yet. Still need to be cautious, but hopefully I can kind of just get back to it and pick up where I left off.
Yeah, hopefully soon you'll be able to go back on the road even more and get to enjoy those moments again.
Exactly. I miss getting to go to, like, Applebee's. As silly as that sounds, but, like, that's one of the best things. Like, you do the shows with the comics, and you're like, okay, let's go get some food now. And you just, like, you hang out at a Denny's or an Apple or something like that, and you just enjoy. And, like, right now, you just don't feel like you can do that. You kind of just have to, like, okay, I got my mask, I got all this, I need some sanitizer, and then I'm going to go back to the hotel and no one get near me for the next, you know, so it's... I'm just looking forward to getting to have that part of it back.
Yeah, so after AGT and you getting to travel, where all have you traveled and performed?
I mean, if you want a comprehensive list, I can't give you that because it's been a bit of a whirlwind. But You know, I was literally on the road nonstop, like during the whole even like during AGT, like when I wasn't needed at the show, I was touring. So, you know, I've got to do Philadelphia, you know, Minneapolis, Oklahoma City, Seattle, Los Angeles, Vegas, you know, Orlando, Florida. I got to go to Canada for the first time ever, which was cool. So I got to do like Calgary and I think Winnipeg and one other. Like, time has no meaning anymore. I can't remember this stuff. But, you know, even just getting to do that, like, for me, that's cool. It's the first time. I mean, some people might just be like, Canada, who cares? It's Canada. But I never got to go to another country. That was the first time I'd ever been out of country.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
And I got paid to do it. Like, they paid me to be there.
True.
It's just surreal. So, I mean, I've been coast to coast, and honestly, like, you find some places that are really cool that you wouldn't maybe expect on paper. Like this will surprise a lot of people when they always ask, like, what's your favorite place to perform? It's Salt Lake City, Utah.
Interesting.
And that's like, on paper, you wouldn't think that, because there's always the jokes about, like, oh, Mormons are boring, and they, you know, like, all that, yada, yada, yada. But, like, they treat you amazing. Like, they love comedy. They're excited that you're there. They know who you are. They do the research. They know who you are ahead of time. They're super supportive of the club. Like, everyone's nice there. Like, not that I won't name names, but, like, not every city is as welcoming just outside of comedy.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain cities where you're like, I'm just going to stay in the hotel.
Yeah,
understandable. You know? But Salt Lake City, like, you just go around and everyone's just like, hey, how are you? I'm like, they don't know who I am, but hey, good to see you. You know, it's just such a, and I would have never thought that ahead of time, having never been to Salt Lake City, Utah. So it's been really cool just to get to experience the country a little bit, because I grew up dirt poor. We didn't get to go on vacations. You know, going to grandma's house was our vacation growing up, and it's like, that doesn't really count, Mom, but, like, we love grandma, but that's not a vacation.
Yeah.
So even now, I'll get excited to go to, like, Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I'm just like, cool. What's in Tulsa? I've never been to Tulsa.
What's there?
Let's have fun. So it's been I'm looking forward to that part thing, and just to see some new places and get to just experience a lot of the country that I never got to growing up.
Yeah, I always think it's exciting to travel, even if it's just to smaller cities like here in Winona.
Yeah, I'm in Winona, and a lot of people are like, what? Where? And I'm like, I bet there's some cool stuff you could find here. Like, I bet there's some just interesting, even just the people, getting to talk to some of the, you know, people who are at the show tonight, just like, you get this interesting perspective. Like, there's interesting people everywhere. If you're kind of willing to, you know, put yourself out there and give places a chance, you know, like, Winona's probably not, you know, this big tourist hub that, like, everyone's like, we got a weekend off, we're going to Winona. Like, that's not...
Nope.
Yeah, it's not a thing that exists, but, like...
It's a college town.
Yeah, but you could have some fun here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, too, because, like, I've been here 3 years now. I grew up literally 30 minutes away from here.
Okay.
I did not know this place existed. My parents never brought me here. I came and visited my freshman year in high school, and I fell in love with the place. And I'm like, I want to go here. Like, I want to meet people here. And throughout my college career, I have met some of the greatest people you can ever meet. A lot of them are from Minnesota, but a lot of them are from out of state. My roommate is Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
She is amazing. She's an amazing person, and I just love it here. It's an amazing community.
Well, they've treated me well in the one day I've been here. So I will say, I do not...
We gave you suggestions on where to eat and get some good coffee here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I have gotten that. So in the one day I'm going to be here, 10 out of 10. It would have been great.
I mean, hey, you never know. You can come back at some point.
I wouldn't hate that.
Maybe when everything clears up.
We'll try it again, see if we can get 200 people in this place.
Just to get 200 people. Okay. So kind of one thing I want to ask, it's a little on the spot. Well, actually, you told a lot of funny stories.
Okay.
So do you mind telling a funny story or a funny joke, whatever you decide, just so people can, if they're interested after listening to this, they can go and listen to you more and see, if they haven't seen you on AGT yet, go and watch that.
See, that's the thing there. I would recommend, if anyone's trying to get, like, just like at least a little sample of what I do, AGT is a good place to start. That's...
Okay, but then we gotta talk about the fact that your AGT jokes, amazing, hilarious. You come here, we were like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, that is true. It's one of the things, I can be a little bit more off the cuff in person for shows. We'll say that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anything I do is vulgar per se, but it's not ABC, PG, primetime, midweek, weekday, Bible Belt comedy.
Understandable.
It's a little
yeah.
different. So, but that was always something that for me was important. Even when I started comedy, I didn't want to ever pigeonhole myself into one thing or another, because a lot of people will suggest like, man, don't do clean comedy. Like, just you gotta speak from your heart, do what you want to do. And some people are like, only do clean comedy, because then you don't have to, like, everyone will book you everywhere.
Yeah.
And the way that I kind of looked at it is I wanted to do both. I never wanted to have to turn down a gig because I couldn't do what they wanted.
Yeah.
So for some shows, I'll do shows like AGT. Like, that's kind of a big example. That you clearly can't curse. You clearly can't. There's no. You can't reference sex or drugs or the stuff that's like common sense. That like, okay, you don't do that. And it's their show, and if you aren't comfortable with that, you don't do it.
Yeah, you don't audition for it.
But then I've also done some shows, like I've done roasts, and I've done shows at like.
Oh, roasts are the best.
Yeah, and I've done stuff at like, like kind of like rowdy dive bars. Where if you go there talking about like, isn't bacon weird? Like, they're gonna eat you alive, because like, no, they kind of want to be like made fun of, and they want to hear dirty words they like, and like, so and I didn't want to ever have to like, I didn't want to be intimidated by either. So
So you're the jack of all trades.
I try to be. I never wanted to. Maybe it's just from growing up at a trailer park. We grew up really poor. There was 6 of us in a single wide trailer park. 100% true story. I didn't own a bed until I went to college.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time I had an actual bed. We were, we ate, and we were close, but like we didn't have a lot of frills. And so for me, just kind of as I got older, it was really important for me to be like, I never want to like have to turn down money, to work just because I decided I was only going to do this, and they needed this, and now I can't do it. I never wanted that to be the case with me. So I don't know if that quite counts as like a funny story per se, but at least it's a little insight into what I do, and you're gonna get a little bit of everything. Like if you want to see a dirty show, you can come see a dirty show.
Yeah.
If you want to see a clean show, I do those too. So like you can get whatever you want. I can make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, even no matter what you do, it's hilarious.
Thank you. That's the important thing. I'm very talented. Thank you. I'm the third most talented person in America.
On the 14th season.
Yes, officially.
Officially.
No, I'm riding that way forever. I'm the third most talented person forever.
Forever, okay.
Yes.
I was tempted when you mentioned that during your show. I was tempted to say, but what about Preacher Lawson?
It's funny. Like, I'm friends with Preacher. We get along fine. Like, we're buddies. We're both doing well. I'm very happy for him. I did finish higher than him.
You did.
He was just top 10. He was bottom 5.
You did.
In his season. I got 3rd place. I don't want to rub salt in his wounds or anything. Now, clearly he's doing well. Like, yeah. He's crushing it, and I love Preacher. But according to AGT, I'm more talented than Preacher Lawson.
More talented. Okay, you heard it there. Get this to Preacher so he can hear it.
Exactly, right there. I would tell it to his face. It was a funny thing. Like, this is 100% true. So, I didn't know Preacher until I was already in AGT. Samuel J. Comroe, who was on the season before me, he's another comedian. He has Tourette syndrome. And he got 4th place on the season before me. So like I was taunting him the whole year. I was like, dude, I'm gonna finish ahead of you. I just want to beat you because my season had Cody Lee, who was a buzzsaw on that show. Like no one was beating Cody Lee, and that's fine. Yeah. But I was like, I gotta do better than Sam. I gotta be able to rub this in his face. So like when I was on stage, I thought we were gonna tie. So when we got to like when they were announcing, I made the top 5, and they announced that, and then you have the 5 acts up there, and they start announcing. Yep. Voices of Service, who I love, got 5th place. Yep. And I kind of looked at like Cody Lee, who was the winner, Detroit Youth Choir, who had this big following and a great story. I was like, they're probably ahead of me. And then The Unbeatable, who was the big dance troupe from India, who I thought they were my favorite act the entire year. I thought they were just amazing. Oh yeah. I was like, well, they're the best act, I think, so they're gonna beat me. So I was like, am I gonna tie Sam at 4th place? And then when The Unbeatable got 4th, I was shocked, but like part of me in my head immediately went, yes, please meet Sam. Take that.
Oh, that's great. So, do you do other do you do shows like with some of the other comedians from AGT then?
Occasionally, it's one of those situations where, for the most part, we're all friendly. Like we all know each other. Jackie Fabulous, who was on my season as well and made the semifinals. I'd actually known her since we both started comedy. I'd known her. That was like seeing her when we were at AGT was the first time I'd seen her in 10 years. So that was like a really cool thing. Occasionally we'll do shows together. It doesn't happen super often, and the reason for that is if you do well enough on AGT, you can headline shows. Mm-hmm. So you kind of are doing your own thing, and not that everything has to be financial, but like it makes more financial sense to do your own show than split that with So we all get along. That's the cool thing about AGT. Team comedy on that show is super supportive. Like we want one of us to win.
Yeah.
So it was just super cool because like even people, I knew Sam and Taylor Williamson, who got runner-up a few years before that. I've known him for a long time, so I knew them. But some of the other comics, like when I started having a good run, Tom Cotter, who got runner-up on one of the early seasons, he reached out to me. Like I've never met him in person, but we're kind of buddies now because he's very supportive. And then Preacher reached out to me. Drew Lynch was very, supportive because he did well too.
I love Drew.
And I've only met Drew once. I've never met Preacher in person. I've never met Tom in person. Like Piff the Magic Dragon, who's,
Oh, he's my favorite.
Yeah, we're good friends now. Like we're legitimate friends, and it was just because he liked what I did on AGT, and he was like, I like this guy and he's funny, so I'm gonna support him. I did his one of his virtual shows over the summer when everything was kind of shut down. When we all kind of get a little bit more opened up, I have an open invite to come hang out with him in Vegas and just like see. So it's just like it's so cool how supportive that AGT family is because like it's competitive when you're there. You want to win, but you don't want to win because someone else screwed up or someone else failed. You just want to do your best and succeed. It's almost like summer camp. It's something that like you're together in this moment and not many people get to do it. And so you get this bond with everyone. Like it's like even people you never would have thought, like the fact that like I'm friends with like some of the families of like the kid acts. I made jokes on stage. I don't like kids. Kids scare me.
Yeah. When
you have a disability, kids are mean. They can come for you. But even that, like, just like, because they're going through the same stuff. Like it was interesting. I was like, why am I hanging out with these 12-year-olds? Like I have nothing in common with that. Like they annoy me. This is weird. And I'm like just this comic who just like who cares? But like you're in it together and like you're in the trenches, so you're like hanging out and you're all everyone's having breakfast and you're talking, and it's just like a really cool family dynamic, and I made friends for life off of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm glad to see, because I mean it's a competition end of it all, but I'm glad to see that people are still able to connect and make friends and just become a big happy family, I guess.
Yeah. Most of the people who took it too seriously or were too like hyper competitive, they didn't last long.
Yeah.
Because they're too in their own head. Mm-hmm. They don't like the thing that I really wanted to hammer home to myself, and it was really helpful because like my mom was there for a lot of the run, and I love my mom. Just seeing how, because like when you're in it, you can get really jaded with everything that's going on, because it's like it's a lot of pressure, and it's like, oh, you got to beat these people. If I don't do better than them, this is gonna happen. And like this could make my career. But just seeing how excited my mom was to be there, this is like just a small little anecdote. I don't know if anyone even remembers this show, but for the judge cuts, they do it on a TV studio at Universal Studios, and my mom got interviewed for part of like my segment because she was there, and she got to sit in one of the houses. They did the interview in one of the houses that was used for the show Desperate Housewives. And my mom was like, I'm in the house from Desperate Housewives. It was like the most exciting thing in the world to her. And like our studio was right down the little street on the lot from where they film Family Feud with Steve Harvey.
Oh, that's
And my mom's like
awesome.
driving by this, and she's like, I can see Steve Harvey. Like seeing how excited she was kind of put it into perspective. Like, this can make my career, and like there is some pressure, but like enjoy this as well, because like this should also be fun. Like no one gets to do this, so have fun while you're here.
Yeah, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Exactly, and luckily it worked out for me. I was very content with how it ended.
Yeah, It went really good. So final question, probably, yes, the most easiest question out of the bunch. If people are interested, where can they listen to more of you and find out more about you?
So the easiest way, I'm very interactive with it on here. Social media, so I'm on all the big ones, the Facebook, the Twitters, the Instagrams. It's at Cripple Threat 8. That's the number 8. Clearly there was 7 Cripple Threats before me, but I've risen to power. I am the 8th of my name.
You couldn't get 3?
I had to do it. It's kind of funny. So the guy on Instagram who just has the Cripple Threat name, we've kind of become buddies now. Because I wasn't trying to steal the screen. I'm happy with Cripple Threat 8. 8's my favorite number. I've used that name for everything for a long time. So like I'm cool with it. But when my first audition on AGT aired, people were messaging him on accident because they were forgetting the 8. And then he reached out to me and he's like, dude, I don't watch AGT. I don't care about the show, but it seems like people are excited for you. So congratulations, man. And then we just got to chatting a little bit. He's another person with a disability. So like we just kind of got along and now we're kind of buddies, like, so.
That's great.
Yeah. So you can, so find me on the social medias there. I also have a podcast that I do every week. It's called The Cafeteria. Okay. So I do it with a couple of my best friends in the world. So number 1 is Johnny LaQuasto. I've known him since, I think, 2 months into comedy. We just really got along great. He was most recently, he's a funny comedian, but he was also a announcer who worked for WWE. So he's a big pro wrestling guy, too. I love pro wrestling. That was kind of our original bond. We were both big wrestling nuts. And then the third person is another good friend of mine. Before I moved from Indiana, we actually lived a mile away from each other, is Brent Terhune, who... A lot of people don't know him by the name, but you probably have seen his videos. He blew up during the pandemic. He did a character, and I'm not trying to get political, not give sides, but he did a character of someone who was, it's like a satire character of someone who's very pro-Trump, but he's actually kind of anti-Trump, and the things he says, he's got a big burly, like, red beard. People have seen the videos, probably.
I recognize it, yeah.
Yeah, and he's one of my best friends in the world. Like I said, we lived a mile away from each other when we both lived in Indiana. So we do a weekly, so it's called The Cafeteria, and basically the theme is we're trying to like recreate those moments like when you used to be in school and you maybe only get to see your friends at lunch, and then when you're at the table you just talk about the dumb things you've thought of in the morning, like you're like, what's the biggest animal you think you could beat in a fight? And we just talk about stuff like that, or like what's your weirdest like Halloween costume you've ever done, and we just talk about things like that. So it's kind of like an off the cuff kind of fun experience. So I'm really proud of that. So you can do there. And then cripplethreat.com if you want to see me on tour. I'm starting to travel a little bit. I think the closest I'm going to be to here is June 3rd through 6th. I'm at the House of Comedy in Minneapolis, up at the Mall of America there. So I'm excited to come back and a little bit of normalcy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ryan, so much for coming here to our little college town and just giving us a laugh in all of this time right now.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It was an honor to be here. It was a lot of fun. So I can't wait to come back.
Thanks. Thanks again to Ryan Niemiller for the interview. To learn more about Ryan and about any of his upcoming projects, go to cripplethreat.com. To stream today's episode or any other episode of Culture Clique, go to KQAL.org under the podcast tab. This is KJ on Culture Clique.
Creating cultural awareness and understanding. You've been listening to Culture Clique. Support for Culture Clique is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Culture Clique is produced by KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University. For more information, look us up on the web at kqal.org. And thanks for listening to Culture Clique.